Our scripture reading this morning comes from the 30th number of Psalm. The 30th number of Psalm. And it includes the 3rd through the 5th verse of that number of Psalm. Psalm 30, the 3rd through the 5th verse. And there we will find these words. O Lord, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing unto the Lord, O ye saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness. For his anger endureth but a moment. In his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. What a word. What a word. And we have just witnessed that word being illustrated. That work that David spoke of thousands of years ago. What a blessing it is to have physical evidence that that work is still being done. O Lord, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. So let us think on this thought. We want to talk about enduring the night. Enduring the night. David said, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. We find in our scripture reading this morning where life and its unlimited supply of challenges had put together a combination of challenges and had allowed them to fall upon the life and the livelihood of David, King David, which in return had brought him to a point where he had to cry out to God for him. Life and its unlimited supply of challenges had put together a combination of challenges and loosed them on the life and livelihood of David. And they assaulted him to such a degree where David, the king of Israel, one who bore the power and the authority to rule over and to command every woman and child, who was a part of that nation. But yet something had come upon him to such a degree where such a stature of a man had such power and authority over such a great number of people, and he himself had to look beyond all of his abilities and his capability toward God. And cry out unto God for him. And here there are so many little old us's who so seldom look up toward heaven and cry out to God for help. Lean and depend upon God to assist as we travel through this barren land. In fair weather, in fair weather, a house which is built upon sand is just as well as a house that is built upon a rock. In fair weather, a carved well is just as well as a mighty cable when there is no strain upon it. Let me say that again. In fair weather, a house that is built upon sand is just as well as one that is built upon a rock. In fair weather, a carved well is just as well as a mighty cable when there is no strain upon it. For it is strain and trial that proves one thing strong and another thing weak. And when it comes to strain being being strained, and when it comes to being tried, when it comes to being tested, and when it comes to being proven. The prophet Job shares with us a testimony and a prophecy. When Job states that man is born to trouble, as the sparks of a flame flies upward. And then he goes on and he prophesies that every man that is born of a woman, we're talking about strained and tested and proved. Every man that is born of a woman has but just a few days. And all of those days, every one of them, are going to be full of trouble. For he cometh up in the morning like a flower, but at evening time, just a few hours on down the road, he is cut down like grass and then withers away like green herb, which suggests that at times life can be like that of a flower. So beautiful, so sweet, so full of possibility and opportunity, until one can be made to feel just like one is sitting on top of the world. And then in a twinkle of an eye, all that it takes is just one knock on your door, one telephone call, one letter in the mail, just one bad report, and it's evening time. And that world that you were sitting on top of just moments ago has taken a 180-degree turn for the worse and left you feeling just like that same world is now sitting on top of you. And I wonder this morning, Black Chapel, are there any out there on the parking lot? I wonder this morning, are there any part of our viewing audience who have already experienced evening time in your life? Already experienced evening time in your life. You have already received that knock on your door. You have already received that letter in the mail. You've already received that telephone call. You've already received that bad report. And it left you feeling like the whole weight of the world is on your shoulder, pressing down on your shoulder. And you ask the question, why me, Lord? Why me? What have I done, or what is it that I'm doing to influence evening time upon my life? Why me? It was proven by Jesus' first generation of apostles that it matters not who you are, what you are, nor which social circle of life that you may run in. Sooner or later, stormy weather. Sooner or later, high tide. Sooner or later, unwanted, unexpected, and undesired happenings are going to come parading into your life. And when mayhem come parading into your life, either you're going to fret water or you're going to sink. Either you're going to rise to the occasion or you're going to become a victim of circumstances. And let me tell you something, Black Chapel. The devil has already defined us. The devil has already drew his conclusion when it comes to us. The devil has already counted us out as a likely candidate for failure. As a likely candidate for failure. When we undergo David's experience, the devil has already counted us out as being likely candidates for failure. Why? Because the devil knows that flesh is weak. Flesh is weak. And each and every one of our bodies, the entire framework of man, is covered by flesh. frail, and vulnerable. And every little wind that comes along blows it all over the place. But when snowflakes come together, when snowflakes stick together, when snowflakes bond together, they're able to overturn speeding automobiles. They're able to uproot trees. They're able to cover mountaintops. They're able to fill in valleys. So it is with flesh. When flesh is disconnected from the will of God, it is weak, frail, and vulnerable. Weak, frail, and vulnerable. But when it come online with God, when it come into fellowship with God, when it become one with God, when it bond with God, when it stick with God, flesh is able to kill giants, knock down walls, weather storms, be born again, and come back from the dead. Come back from the dead. Is able to rebound and respond. And I wonder this morning, Black Shepherd, do we have any rebounders out there on the parking lot? When you become one with God, able to kill giants, weather storms, knock down walls, be born again, and even come back from the dead. Rebound. Do we have any rebounders? Do we have any recoverers out there? And my God, you ought to give it up for God. You ought to thank God for your resurrection. Not just for Jesus, but for your resurrection. Oh, we thank God for Jesus. But in spite of Jesus having healed, what if you hadn't had yours? In his own place, your resurrection is just as important as Jesus. He has already passed judgment upon us, labeled us as likely candidates for failure, because he knows that flesh is weak when it's disattached from the will of God. But when it come into fellowship with God, when it come online with God, when it walk in the will of God, as Paul said, I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. You plus God always give you the majority. You can't lose with God on your side. You can't lose, Black Shepherd, with God on your side. And that's what David is telling us in our scripture reading. When David cried out to God, saying, you took my soul out of the grave. Once I was lost to righteousness. I was lost to holiness. I was lost to godliness. But you saved me. You delivered my soul from the grave. And weeping may endure for a night. But joy comes in the morning. Joy comes in the morning. What is David telling us, Black Shepherd? What is it that David is telling us? David is saying, don't you be intimidated by the night. Don't you be intimidated by the night. Because the night always comes just before the light. The night always comes before the light. That goes all the way back to the beginning. When the earth was void and without form. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. Was light. Was light. Even Moses told us in the beginning that the night always comes before the light. Don't you be intimidated by the night. Well, the question that challenges each and every one of us is, how can we endure the night? How can we endure the night? Well, the way we go about enduring the night is to follow the instructions that God has given us pertaining to the light. The way we go about enduring the night is to follow the instructions that God has given us pertaining to the light. And David tells us in the 27th number of Psalm that the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked and all of my enemies and foes come upon me to eat of my flesh, they all stumble and fall. Stumble and fall. How can we endure the night? By continuing to walk in the light. Walk in the light. Walk in that beautiful light. Because the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. Now the wisest man in the world, King Solomon, left us some advice, left us some insight when he said that there's a season and a time for everything that's in the heaven, meaning that there's some darkness that's going to come your way. There's some darkness that you're going to be challenged by. But whenever the darkness come your way, David also tells us in the book of Psalms, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious of the workers of iniquity. Soon they shall be cut down like grass and withered away like green herbs. You just trust in the Lord and do good. Trust in the Lord and do good. But let me tell you something, Black Traveler. Trusting in the Lord doesn't always require of you to go down into the lion's den. Trusting in the Lord doesn't always require of you to go out into the fiery furnace. Trusting in the Lord doesn't always require of you to cross over Red Sea. But sometimes all trusting in the Lord requires of you is for you to stand still and know that he's God. Stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord. Now standing still is not always an easy thing to do. Standing still is not always an easy thing to do, because sometimes in order to stand still in the Lord, sometimes in order to go God's way, you have to love your enemy, pray for those who curse you, do good toward those who despitefully use you, persecute you, and say all manner of evil things against you falsely. Sometimes in order to stand still, even when the meal bell get a little low, you still have to bring your tithes and offerings to the storehouse, so there'll be meat in my house, and see won't he open up a window in heaven and pour you out a blessing that you will not have room to receive, and he will rebuke your devourer, and he will not destroy the fruit of your ground. Stand still in the Lord. Continue to walk in the light. Don't you allow anybody nor anything to put out your light. Put out your light. Where's your light? Nothing and nobody. Yeah. And this coronavirus. When you look at the church, oh, how many lights? How many lights have the saints of God allowed COVID-19 to put out? Before COVID-19 on Sunday and during this hour, where would you be? Say that. Where would you normally be? What would you normally be doing? Yes, sir. When the Sunday school opened up its doors for its session, where would you be? When Bible class, where would you be? When it's time to give your tithe and offering, where would you be? So many of God's children have allowed the enemy to put out their light. Put it out. When the light has the authority to shine in the darkness, and the darkness shall comprehend it not. Strain and trial proves one thing strong and another thing weak. Strain and trial is a tester, is a schoolmaster that God has assigned to test and to prove, especially whether we the people strong or weak. We can go anywhere else and do anything else but come to church. Oh, I see you all over Facebook. Jumping and hopping and pooping and popping and having a time of your life. But you can't come to church. Lighting out. Spending, burning, selling, and having a great time. But you can't give your tithes and offering to the Lord. What you like? Strain and trial proves one thing strong and another thing weak. Flesh is weak, and the devil has already passed judgment, defined us, the saints of God, as being likely candidates for failure. How to get through. Tonight, only but one way, and that is to continue to walk in the light, this beautiful light that God has given the authority and ordained to shine in the darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not. The door of the church is open. The door of the church is open. By way of letter, Christian experience, or came for baptism. The door of the church is open.